Today, I was told by a billionaire the sole limiting factor that will break or be the reason for me being able to succeed in scaling my business. He said that he really wants me to succeed. So he said it would be impossible if for any entrepreneur to really take their business to the next level and be making, $1 million+ per month and having a massive team at hand without this one skill. And he said he was naming off 5 or 6 people that are mutual friends of ours that most people would probably know, that they can't scale a business because they can't let go of power in the business. They have to micromanage everything. He said you need to be able to hire people that are competent at their job. He said if you can't hire people that are competent and better at their job than what you can do, or at least almost as good as you, then you need to let go. It's just not possible. He said, name me an entrepreneur that is making a few $1 million a month, that has a multi-billion-dollar business, that could sell their business. He said, name me one person who can sell their business that is doing everything themselves. He said, you can't, because no one's going to buy a business from somebody who is the business. You are just having a high paying job at that point. So it really comes down to, if you hire somebody, let them do what you had them do. And if they can't perform that to what you were doing, you need to reflect and realize you were the person who hired them. So that means it was your inability to hire that person and train them and give them clear instructions and motivate them to want to work, to for them to actually perform their job. Because they didn't do that, as the business owner, you have to take accountability. And he said most people, they start trying to hire people and then they say, oh, God, you're not doing that right. Do it this way instead. And then it's kind of like your teacher telling you how to do a math equation. And sometimes there's multiple ways to get to the correct answer, and they only want to teach you one way. Where if you're in a free market and you operate your business like a free market, let your employees come to as long as they get the right answer, let them come to the conclusion any way possible, and trust and let them make decisions on their own. If you need to be involved in every single decision, there's absolutely no way you're going to be able to scale, because other people are better at jobs than you are. That is a fact. If you can't come to that realization, then you're naive. Or you should just be a high paying employee. That's not what running a business is. You need to hire people to delegate the work so you can focus on the one thing that is going to matter most. He said, Josh, think about what makes the difference between the doctor who is making a ton of money to the person who ends up buying the building and putting all the doctors in there. He said, there's not too many doctors who become super entrepreneurs. There's just not. He said, don't be a high paying doctor. You got to figure out how to hire people to fulfill what you are doing on mass scale. And then he also said, you need to make sure you're taking on the right clients. And I mean, I'm glad that he told me this, because it's kind of confirming the bias that I already had. He said, you got to work with other people, because the way that my business is operating right now is I am working with other entrepreneurs. And so he said, you need to find other entrepreneurs who are going to let you do what you got to do. Because when I go to Ken, he is literally giving me 100% freedom. He just shows up and I tell him what to do and he does it. Like that's quite literally how it goes. And so he said, find other people like that who are going to do the same thing. He said, Josh, obviously you know what you're doing. You're going to show results for whoever you are working with, as long as you can perform this on mass scale. So just find the people who are going to listen to you, because most people that are in that position, they think they know everything. And I've experienced that. I've worked with a lot of people that I cut off within the first week, that they try and micromanage me. And I say, dude, I'm not your employee. I am a business owner. You are a business owner. This is a mutualistic relationship. I am not going to be micromanaged. That's why I'm not an employee, because that drives me crazy. And they usually don't know what the hell they're talking about, but they want their finger in absolutely anything that is being done. And because they want their finger in everything, absolutely nothing gets done. And that happens time and time and time again. And I've seen it over and over and over again. So you can see the difference between the people who are making a ton of money and have complete freedom of time. Ken works 2 days a week. He works 2 days a week and makes $5+ million per month. Just imagine that, because of the system that he built that continuously runs on his own. Compare that to the high paying doctor who's working 10, 12 hours every single day, maybe making 500 grand per year, but is a slave to their job. And if they stop working, their income completely stops. Ken could stop working and his income is going to continue to go up because people's jobs are in place to give them the incentive to want to work to make the company grow. So you have to give people the incentive to want to work and want to make the business money by giving them some sort of profit share model or something to where they get rewarded when the company does well. And so now it just comes down to two things: finding my ideal client for people like Ken who have these large businesses already, which I'm getting introduced to, but a lot of them are micromanagers. So it's that, and also being able to perform what I am doing at scale to where if I could take on 50 people like Ken, I would not be able to service all of them right now. So I need to have the back end infrastructure in place to allow that to happen, but I'm scaling very slowly, which is me probably just being scared, as we all have insecurities. And once I start to hire a real full time team, there's a ton of pressure to where you are reliant upon their livelihood, on their income. And when it's really just you and some independent contractors that you hire out, there's not a whole lot of pressure. But it really gets put on another level when you have 10 people on your payroll who they are feeding their families and themselves with that money. They're paying their rent. They're doing absolutely everything with that. And if your business doesn't make money, all of you guys are screwed. So, I mean, I am okay taking unlimited amounts of risk, but it's still a scary thing to do. My goal is I am such a lazy bastard. I want to create something that continuously makes me as much money as I want by putting in the absolute minimum amount of work as humanly possible. And that I'm forced to work the minimum amount as possible, but I can work as much as I want to. Then I will choose to work because I enjoy it, but I don't enjoy being forced to do things. So that has always been my goal, is create something that works for you. And I'm going to continuously try and do that because that's the goal of running a business, is having freedom of time, money, everything, to where you can do whatever you want when you want to, right? So most people start a business and then they never let go of control, and then they are just the busiest human on the face of the planet Earth because they're doing 10 jobs at once, but getting paid for probably, a few hundred grand a year, which is good money. But for the time and effort that is going into it, I've always taken the position of I would rather make less money, but work less. Like I was talking to someone pretty recently, and they were doing a very low skilled labor, and they're making maybe 5, 6 grand a month. And I said, hey, why don't you pay someone that's going to maybe cost you $800 a month in the Philippines, probably less than that if you were really trying to be cheap. So your income is going to go from 5,000 to $4,200 per month, which is still more than enough. Your monthly expenses are maybe only 2 grand or whatever. And so your time is going to be freed up an extra 5 hours per day because he was spending 5 hours per day, at least every 5 days, doing this low skilled labor task. And I said, then you could spend that 5 hours doing something that is going to make you a hell of a lot more money. He said, Josh, but that's $800 that's not in my bank account. I said, you're thinking about it all wrong. That might be $800 not in your bank account, but that's 5 hours per day freed up. How much money could you make with an extra 5 hours? How much more you could think of a way to make money? There's infinite ways. Or you could just do whatever you want. Why are you working in the first place? So I, from a gut feeling, because of the people I'm surrounding with myself with, my first instinct is always, how can I have someone do this for me better than me, cheaper? How? That's always my first instinct. Whenever I'm taking on some sort of work or I have some new idea, how can I set this up to where someone else is going to do this for me? That is literally always my first thought. And maybe I'm not in that position to be able to delegate, but I don't know. I don't know. Goodbye.